I'm Jess.
And I'm Wes.
Welcome to the National Wrestling Clipping Alliance podcast, or what's known as the NWCA podcast. We are the wrestling podcast that doesn't just talk wrestling history, we show history. Wes, buddy, what did you do to yourself?
I know,
You look like Jim Connolly, man. You look like old school.
I feel old school. I definitely feel old school because, today, Jesse, we're going back to 19. You know what? I just caught a glimpse of myself here. You know what I look like? I'm not even going to say it. But anyways, there's a show my wife likes, and he's got a guy, and he's bald, and he wears big glasses. Anyways,
oh my God, did you get in a fight with Abdullah the Butcher, bud? What's going on up there?
I was a referee in a match, like old school, Jim Connolly, and he hacked me one, and it's just healing up now. You got to do what you got to do, right?
I guess so, buddy.
Driving a van for courier is not good enough, so I got to take in part-time wrestling gigs and getting carved up by Hannibal or Abdullah the Butcher.
Oh my God, this guy drops Hannibal's name on our podcast. Episode 3, man, and we're going. Episode 1, we were in 1983. Episode 2, 88. Last week's episode was great to actually relive the event that you went to.
Yeah, it was very exciting to talk about something that was a big deal at the time, especially for fans traveling down from Toronto to Detroit, Michigan. Today we're going back to 1978. Seven, yeah, 1977. You were not even a twinkle in your grandpa's eye, and I was 78. Well, I wasn't even 20 yet. Still a kid. But I had full beard and mustache, and I had a fro.
Yeah.
I should have put one on for this show.
Just so I know what an afro is.
1978, Madison Square Garden.
1977, West means in Madison Square Garden. Buddy, how deep is that cut?
It affected my reading 7s and 8s, definitely.
This guy kills me. I want to remind everybody that the NWCA podcast is sponsored by Grand River Tea. Grand River Tea is a Canadian company by a Canadian woman entrepreneur that provides premium loose leaf teas. Now, the listeners of our show can save 10% off their final purchases. Yes, you, the listeners, just have to use the code NWCA at checkout. You can save on herbal and fruit teas, organic teas, black teas, and many others. Just head over to grandrivertea.ca, search their wide variety of premium loose leaf teas, use the code NWCA, and save money while staying healthy with Grand River Tea.
Yep, it's Grand River Tea.
Yeah.
We love our tea.
Last week you had the shirt.
Yep.
This week you are you're Jim Connolly's manager. So today, September 27th, 1977, WWF. We're going to do what we always do. Before we get into the show, I want to set the scene for everybody.
Sure, go ahead.
Let everybody know what's going on in the world of wrestling. So, I just want to let everybody know that we are, in September 27th, 1977, we are less than a month of the passing of Elvis Presley. I knew you would like that one.
Yeah. I pushed him downstairs once.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Were you in Vegas?
Yeah. Back in 56.
I just wanted a reaction out of you. That's why.
Me and Frank Sinatra, we pushed Elvis down the stairs.
This guy kills me. Trainer and wrestling promoter Roy Welch passed away on September 27th, 1977. So the day we're talking about, Roy Welch. You know anything about him?
Promoter in Tennessee, Memphis.
Yeah, I know Roy Welch trained David D. Schultz.
Yep.
Dr. D. I only know that because of Dark Side of the Ring. Jim Cornette tells a story of him used to going to the bathroom and then putting it under his armpits and then putting guys in headlocks.
Huh.
Yeah, he was that old school, bro.
That's old school, man. They had a bit of a legacy down there of guys that were related to them, Welches and Lees and stuff. But yeah, people People passed. Who were the champions at the time, Jesse? Do you got that written down?
I do. Harley Race is the NWA champion, and funny enough, a week before this, he wrestled Don Leo Jonathan, which I have right here. Can you?
Yep.
In Seattle. So
In
take a look at that clipping. So there's Harley Race a week before, the NWA champion facing Don Leo Jonathan, an NWA legend, and former champion. No, did he win? I can't remember.
Don Leo Jonathan never held any straps, big ones. No.
I know, that's weird to me. I always think that he would have.
He traveled too much.
Really, eh?
He liked to travel, yeah.
Oh well. So yeah. Anyways, that's cool to show. Nick Bockwinkel is the AWA champion, who wrestled in mid-October, and we'll get in Toronto. Okay. I have a clipping of that also, but we'll show that in the fallout because there's other things that you have to add to that.
Correct.
But hey, man, that's all I got really because it's 77. Would you consider 1977 maybe the height of the territory area before Vince took over?
Pretty close. Pretty close. It's about 77, I'd say, around that time frame. We were still in Toronto in the midst of just losing the Sheik as the headliner. Frank Tunney had brought in a whole pile of different stars he was hoping to replace the Sheik. The Sheik being what he was, but he just wore his welcome here. The territories were still definitely thriving, and also in Toronto, we had Buffalo TV, which was a different promotion altogether. I had two stations in Buffalo. One of them was the WWWF, which I think that was on Sundays at lunchtime, which we always watched because we'd see the terribly, usually boring WWWF TV matches at the time. Jay Strongbow on every card. But it was what it was. We were lucky in Toronto. We had lots of different promotions on our TV stations here. There's so incredible to turn on TV one day and see, say, maybe Don Leo Jonathan against Pedro Morales from the WWF, and then see Dr. Jerry Graham from Montreal, and see just different guys that we would never see on Toronto TV, like Frank Tunney's promotion TV. But yeah, it was very high. And 77. Guess what, Jesse? There's no internet. There's hardly any inside information at all. So not that as a 18 or 19-year-old, I didn't completely believe 100%. But on the same note, the only way we got any information was through the magazines.
Or how I get my information, who I consider the first wrestling journalist, Mr. Terry Justice.
Definitely. Mr. Justice was putting out the bulletins. I wasn't privy to them at the time because I didn't know anybody. I didn't even know about them. But after the fact, looking back, you're thinking, oh my goodness, this guy had his finger. He was the internet of wrestling at the time. Definitely.
It amazes me. Now, I got all these Terry Justice booklets that I have from a mutual friend of you and I. So shout out to the handler of Maple Leaf Wrestling Twitter. But I love these books. These things I'll never get rid of. I go through these things every week just because I love seeing the names, right? So, and that's how I found what we are going to talk about today, which is this huge card.
Yes, that's a fantastic program. And it's funny, it spotlights on the front cover two guys who eventually would be feuding.
Really?
After Backlund won the title. Yep, Maivia stayed around there long enough. Maybe even he was programmed as a babyface at the time to be an eventual opponent of Backlund.
Wow.
And Backlund didn't win the title too much longer after we're going to talk about the card we're going to talk about. So yeah.
Speaking about the card, let's get into it. I have the program here, and I just want to show Johnny. Let's get a quick look at that before we dive into there, bud.
Move it down just a sec. Move it down there we go. You got the main event now and the date. Good, super.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Lots of big names on there, folks.
You're not kidding.
Okay, well, let's do what we do best and dive into this thing, brother.
Let's dive.
So I can't even say his name because the Baron, the Maltese Falcon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mikel Cicluna.
Yeah.
Say it, Cicluna.
I said Yvonne Robert wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. You think I'm gonna say freaking Chalulalu? Anyways, I know this name because Bruno Sammartino talks about him. Yep. Because him and Bruno had a couple of things. It's funny, I forget who said it. He was like a jobber, pretty much, this guy.
Yeah, and he lasted a long time in the WWF. But he's also famous because he was one of the guys who trained and started up with Dave McKegney and Waldo Von Erich working on the small circuit here in Ontario back in the 50s.
Really?
Yeah. Bjorn Mikel Cicluna is Mike Valentine on your 1960s cards from Ontario. Same guy.
Whoa! This guy just
Mike
dropped
Valentino.
a bomb.
Mike Valentino. Yeah.
Hey.
Same guy.
Wow, I didn't know that. Look at this guy dropping the history even on me. Dude, I'm gonna go digging tonight.
Yeah. So he started off basically early 60s. He climbed up from Red Garner's CCWA, which was a minor promotion here in Ontario. Him and Waldo started getting a push right at the same time. Waldo being such a great star, Waldo Von Erich I'm talking about, Wally Sieber. He was such a great star that he was able to move to main events practically right away. Both of these guys, huge opponents for Bruno Sammartino back in the day in the 60s and the early 70s for sure. His opponents, yeah, whatever. And this card,
Jack Evans,
yeah, whatever, a guy.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Next match.
No offense, of course. I mean, if someone's listening, that's their uncle or something. It's no offense. Like, the guy still got in the ring. He main event. He was in a match in Madison Square Gardens. I wasn't. You weren't. So I'm gonna give him.
Yeah, but no one should take what you like anyway serious because you don't even like Shawn Michaels and fucking Hulk Hogan. You don't like the Hulkster, brother.
I kicked that pillow downstairs too, along with Elvis.
It's not a pillow. You old man. It's a wrestling buddy. Okay?
It's a wrestling buddy, yes.
It's a wrestling buddy.
Yeah.
Jeez. Next match, Mr. Fuji.
Yep.
And Lenny Hurst.
Yep.
Before we jump into Fuji, take a look at this. Where is he in here? I have him in here. God dang it. Oh, there he is. It looks like Fuji.
Down a bit, down. There you go. Got their faces in. Fuji with the tattoo and Tanaka without the tattoo. They were basically the WWF Tag Team Champions off and on for about 1,000 years.
Really?
Yeah, they were always the tag. They were the heel Tag Team Champions for off and on for about 5 years. I don't know how many times they held the title, but it was quite a few times. They both lasted a long time in the ring too. But Fuji ended up, of course, being a manager in that your era kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I know Mr. Fuji. The thing I know Mr. Fuji for is being the manager of Yokozuna.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he manage
Demolition.
Yeah.
So, but to me, Yokozuna, right? Because
definitely
that was right up my little area there. Lenny Hurst.
Yep.
Nothing. Whoopity-doo, Basil, he says. Okay, Tora Tanaka versus Johnny Rivera.
Tanaka gets awesome because he was with Fuji. He was a tag team champ. Rivera.
Come on, really?
These guys ended up being beaten like hell, beaten out of them on TV every week. Also, must have been a shortage of talent that week.
But why is Rivera in the fan favorite section of the program?
Because his mom put it together.
Oh, you're so. Oh my God!
Again, no disrespect. It just
just ignore this guy. He doesn't even believe in super kicks.
Yeah. I love super kick. Chris Adams' super kick was fantastic.
Really?
What's the next match?
Midget tag team match, and I will say midget because that's what it says in the program.
And I don't use the word other than what I read. And it's no disrespect. It's just what I'm reading. Yeah, Cowboy Lang.
So the little person, if you really
Yeah.
want to be politically correct.
And Haiti Kid versus Little John and Little Tokyo. Now, Little Tokyo is famous because he was going to get deported, and he put up a huge stink about his profession and being an entertainer in North America. And I actually remember back in the day, I dug a Playboy or a Penthouse or something out of the seat, under the seat from one of my dad's trucks, and there was an article on him in it. But that was a long time ago. I can't remember what the article was, but I remember a long time ago. And it was something to do with him trying to fight to stay in North America to wrestle. Yeah.
I just have a quick picture if anybody doesn't know who we're talking about.
Yeah. Cowboy Lang and Haiti Kid on the top. And at the bottom, move it up. Up, 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 up. Keep going, keep going. And there we go. There's the opponents. Yep.
So, perfect, right? Buddy, this is a dope program. I mean, look at this thing. I love this thing, man.
That's a fantastic program, yeah.
I have a WWF one a couple of years later in '79, but I'll have to get that.
Yeah.
6-man tag match is next, buddy. Best 3 out of 5 in a 6-man?
Yeah, so they would do stipulations like that just because of they did some 6-mans with Gorilla Monsoon, and they used to do the 3 out of 5 just to also to fill in the card. Now you have to remember that, like Toronto, lots of times in New York City, the main event would not be put on last because they didn't want riots.
Really?
So that's why the Sheik was never on last in Toronto, because they didn't want any riots.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Sheik would be on like 7th or 8th out of like 11 matches, and then he'd get dressed and showered and take off and get the hell out of there, so there wouldn't be nobody waiting for him outside. And I think I'm quite sure that this is the same case with this main event also. So we can hit the 6-man. The 6-man was one of my unfavorite wrestlers, Jay Strongbow, and Larry Zbyszko, who we've talked about in the past. Tony Gurria, who's from New Zealand, and they beat Ken Patera, Stan Stasiak, and the manager who was still wrestling at the time, Lou Albano. And Albano was famous for going coast to coast, as they say.
Almost like your forehead.
Man. The guy, it was so disgusting. Well, you've seen pictures of him when he got famous with Cyndi Lauper, and his face was like a butcher hat. That's like terrible, right?
Yeah. Girls just wanna have fun. Oh, come on, buddy. I know you like that music video.
Yeah. Cyndi Lauper. Well, she was different. She was different at the time. Back in the day, she was different.
Yeah, and it was a big crossover, but that's for another day.
Huge crossover bit.
Stan Stasiak was huge in Toronto too.
Yeah.
Even his son tells. I watched a shoot interview of his son.
Okay.
And Sean Stasiak. Yes, thank you. And Sean said he would live in Toronto because he's just like, his dad was so big here.
Yeah.
Right. And there's another name that should have went in the Hall of Fame instead of the Legacy Hall of Fame, right?
Yes. Held one of the other Canadians who held a major league title. Stasiak was at one time when he was appearing in Toronto here in this late 70s, I should say 75, 76, 77, maybe 78 even. He was a heel everywhere else, and he was a face here. And he actually changed his trunks, and he had a maple leaf on his leggings, which helped put him over so much. I liked him. He was pretty good. Everybody knew he was Canadian, so we liked him even more. At one time, I guess he really could move, but by this time he was getting a little long in the tooth. And but still, Canadian guy who held a major world title. Definitely good for him.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Next match it says extra special attraction. 1 hour fall. 1 hour, one fall.
Okay.
So pretty much you put a time limit on a match and just say special attraction. Like, really?
Yeah.
Come on, bro. That's now known as an Iron Man match, just so you know.
Yep.
And Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, your boy, had the best one ever. But this one is pretty boy Larry Sharp and Bob Backlund. And I'll
Yep.
be straight up and tell you, never got it. I don't get Bob Backlund. I don't understand the character. You know, even remember now I'm talking WWF when he was all crazy and stuff. Even now he's like, "Oh, I'm talking and I'm going wild," and I'm like, "Dude, I don't get it."
He was. I read the term somewhere, colorless, and no persona. As far as I was concerned, I never saw him live, so I can't say how great he was at a big arena show. But on TV, it was just so boring. His interviews were so terrible. They played him up as a all-American boy, and he was just 100% that. Now, physicality and in the ring, he was supposed to be fantastic and strong as crazy. Um, um, this was probably getting him closer. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Getting him closer, building him up for his run as the champion from beating Billy Graham. But I exactly the same as you. Now, Larry Sharp, pretty boy Larry Sharp, he's from New Jersey, local guy to the New York area. He was famous because he trained Bam Bam Bigelow.
Really?
Yeah.
I love me some Bam Bam Bigelow, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, I loved him. He was fantastic.
Really? I wouldn't put you for a Bam Bam Bigelow fan.
Oh, come on. The guy could do everything. I see drop kick off the top rope, for God's sake. Suplexes. He was fantastic for a big man. Talent, raw talent, really good. I really liked him. I don't care. I don't care what his character was. Another guy, just he was fantastic.
Did you ever work for the WildMan?
No,
Did Stan Stasiak or anybody else that we talked about work for the WildMan?
yeah, we'll be getting there. Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we cover that because I like knowing that. I'm selfish about that stuff. George the Animal Steel, buddy, come on. Don't and Chief Peter Maivia. Now, before we dip into that, they have a great picture of
Well, you said that really good.
what?
Maivia.
Yeah, well, hello. I grew up with The Rock.
That's true.
Speaking of The Rock, this is The Rock's grandfather.
Yep.
That we are talking about.
Up. There you go. Perfect. Yep, he's going to throw the spear through Bob Backlund's heart.
Really?
Yep. He's looking at him right now. He's saying, Bob Backlund, I'm coming after you, baby.
He's on the cover too.
Yeah.
He must have been a pretty big deal, but for the WWF.
He's a big deal everywhere. Yeah. He came to Toronto just right around this time, also feuding with Angelo Mosca.
Really?
But that was what they were when they were with the AWA. That big feud with him and Mosca, like at least 3 or 4 cards where they went after each other. Yeah, Maivia was he's interesting. Not my type of wrestler, but interesting enough. He was great with revenge matches. He portrayed such a strong, passionate character on his interviews. He was really good.
Yeah.
And eventually he did turn heel and stabbed Backlund in the heart, and was a big opponent for Bob Backlund after he won the title belt.
Wow. That must have been something when, because you got to think this is before everything. This is before the Eddie Mansfield cutting himself on TV, showing everybody how things work with John Stossel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is like you said, Mid-Atlantic isn't even really in Toronto. It hasn't even made that deal yet at this point in time.
Nope, not yet. Really close, but not yet.
Yeah, right? So, and technically right now, the promoter of this show was Vince McMahon Sr.
Definitely Senior. Definitely for sure, because Senior died just about a year and a half before Frank Tunney did, which we talked about on the first episode.
Yes. And we showed clippings of that and stuff.
So
George the Animal Steel. I knew he was from Detroit, and that great movie, the 365 days or 350 days or something like
yep.
that. The documentary, it's on Amazon Prime.
Gotta sit back, cutting your head off.
Am I?
Yep. There you go.
Too excited. I'm too jacked up right now. But no, but that movie even says, like, because he was a teacher, right?
Yeah.
And he just wrestled part-time. So he's like a football player, right? Because we talked about that in the Ontario WILDMAN podcast, when football players would play football and then do wrestling in the summer.
That's right.
Right?
Massive career, part-time. Yeah, like he's a part-time gig, a summer wrestler, basically. In the 60s, was a huge opponent for Bruno and Pedro Morales in WWF, and in Pittsburgh. Hardly ever wrestled in Toronto at all until after with the Elizabeth thing and everything. But George Steele, I supposedly in the 60s, he was great. Like
Really?
he could actually wrestle and do stuff in the ring. I love the flying hammerlock. That was a great hold. Oh my God. What a fantastic hold.
Here's a picture of some S's. You got that, Wes, or should I go higher?
Yep, that's good.
So take a quick look, and then again, if you're like, oh, don't rewind the video, we show it all in the credits at the end too. So if you miss something, don't worry about it.
Definitely.
Not a big deal. And don't just say, because Macho Man versus George Animal Steel was a big deal, bro.
Well, it was, and I get it. I don't like it, but I get it.
You didn't like his little animal that he had? He's eating the turnbuckles. That was different back then. The man was eating turnbuckles, bro, with the green tongue.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Main event time.
Main event time.
And we got a lot to talk about here because it's superstar Billy Graham versus the man himself, the American Dream.
The American Dream.
Before we go on, hold on. I want to show this picture real quick of the program.
There you go. And he's got the, looks like the Florida title belt on his waist there.
Take a look.
Yep.
So there you go. Again, we'll show that picture at the end. If you missed it, don't worry about it. Dude, this must have been huge because I've seen this Superstar and Dusty not only in New York, but I've seen it in other cities in the States in other clippings.
Yeah, and it's a big deal. Two guys who probably really liked each other, knew what to do in the ring, and they didn't do too much. There was not many wrestling holds here. Superstar Billy Graham was a physical specimen.
Yeah.
And a great heat inducer. I thought he was fantastic. I wish I could have seen him, and I went to the Maple Leaf Gardens of Toronto to see him once, but he couldn't show up, unfortunately, because he had a leg injury. Those two guys, the passion in the ring, they didn't have to do anything because it was all there, baby. Dusty Rhodes was, at the time, the hottest guy, the hottest baby face in the world, bar none. He could go anywhere. He wrestled in California. He'd wrestle in Mid-Atlantic. He'd wrestle in Florida, Georgia. He could go anywhere and sell out the building. He was probably making gobs and gobs and gobs of money. I'm sure. I bet, I don't know, but I bet any money he made $10,000 going to New York City for one appearance. I bet, for sure.
Really?
Like, people came to see him because he was just so popular. When he made the switch to the babyface in Florida, he just exploded too. He was exploded, and didn't do much wrestling. Did a big elbow drop. He could do a sleeper. Sometimes he'd do a leg drop. Sometimes not much else. A lot of pounding, a lot of fists. Billy Graham was basically the same thing. Bear hug. Good bleeder, although Dusty was a good bleeder too. So yeah, this would have been 1,000 times worth the price of admission to see. And I bet any money, my cousin in Long Island, her late husband, I bet any money he was at this card because he loves Superstar Billy Graham. He thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, Hogan always says he models himself after Superstar Billy Graham and Dusty.
100%. 100%. And Billy Graham, I know that what we've learned through the internet was that Vince McMahon Sr. gave his champions a starting date and a finishing date, and that was it. There was nothing else. There was no yes, no talking about it. Anything like this, just like anything else. This is all programmed, right?
Yeah.
But
The job.
yeah, superstar Billy Graham could have made a turn. He would have been a fantastic face champion. He was so popular but hated, so popular but hated, so popular but hated. I could say that a million times because that's exactly what he was.
I have a great photo here of the program.
Oh, look at that, eh? It was a classic looking dude with the Grand Wizard who used to be Abdullah Farouk.
Yeah. Was he known as Abdullah Farouk always, or did he switch to the Grand Wizard?
For a while, he was playing both parts.
Really?
He was going back and forth from Detroit to New York City, and then he just eventually just stayed. I think him and his partner owned part of Boston at one time for promotion, and then I don't know if he was a booker or anything. I'm not really too sure, but he was great on the mic. And that one of the things about superstar Billy Graham was he could talk fantastic. He was a good talker. He was too sweet to be sour, the man of the hour, blah blah blah. He invented all that stuff, right? But he was a good talker, and Grand Wizard was a great talker. So it was a kind of a mismatch putting them together. But on the same note, all the heels in New York had to have a manager. It was just you had to have a manager, right?
Yeah. Actually, here's a great page too. The champ is still going strong. So I'm going to read from this. So let's get a good look at that.
Oh, nice. Yep.
So it says here, since winning the WWF belt, the superstar has defeated every top man he faced, not only here on the East Coast, but also in places such as Toronto, St. Louis, and Tampa. Actually, there doesn't seem to be a man who will be able to wrestle the belt away from the champion in the near future. Certainly, there are no men who are stronger nor tougher than the superstar, and besides, the man can really wrestle. So apparently he can wrestle. He simply got his act together, and that's in quote, got his act together,
Yeah.
as he has stated numerous times. It's going to have to take quite a man to defeat him, and judging from the current crop of men in the WWF, including such stars as Bob Backlund, Ivan Putski, Tony Garea, and Chief J. Strongbow, superstar Billy Graham should be able to hold on to his belt for a long time to come.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, you mentioned some guys there, and he was just so good. And to think about the title reign being taken away from someone who's so popular seems absurd, but that's the way they did it. It was a program. It was written in stone, right?
Of course, right? And like you said here, like you got those great photos too, right? Of the superstar.
Yep. And just before we get to that, Jesse, I just wanted to quickly say, it's funny. Quick research before the podcast, and I thought, I wonder who was the NWA champion at the time. So I looked, and it was Harley Race. Okay, that's fine. And then I thought, oh, September 77. Oh my goodness. I looked down, and if in August of that year doesn't Dusty win the NWA belt? So he was a headliner at New York City, but also qualified enough to win the NWA championship belt and his only run. I think he made one appearance in Toronto defending the belt, but I don't have the clipping, and I haven't seen it for years and years and years and years. The Texas Outlaws, which Dusty was part of, they were really big in Ontario in the early 70s, and they when he turned babyface, like I said before, when he turned babyface, it was the best thing that he could have ever done in his life, for sure, because the money he must have made over the rest of his career being a babyface. Even as the polka dot came along, that age, he was still still drawing fans in for sure.
Oh yeah, huge. So speaking of Dusty, actually I just looked down on the page because I wanted to show something I showed you earlier. So on September 20th, which is 7 days before this, he was actually in Florida against Lars Anderson. Florida title versus $1,000 silver. Dusty Rhodes versus Lars Anderson. DQ rule waves. So let me just show you quickly. Can you see that one where my finger is?
Yep. Yep.
So there.
And Billy Graham on the card too.
Yeah. So you see they're touring together. So that's kind of weird. Kind of weird.
So so a couple of the things that we like to talk about are the Canadians on the card. There's not too many on this one. Cicluna, Stasiak, and Cowboy Lang, one of the midget wrestlers, was Canadian. He's from Saskatchewan. Guys who worked for the WILDMAN at one time or another, which is one of our Facebook pages, tribute to the WILDMAN. Cowboy Lang, the Haiti Kid, ended up, I think, coming up here in the later years and wrestling as little Mr. T. Cicluna, of course, Chief J Strongbow, George Steele wrestled for the WILDMAN. Larry Zbyszko also. Ken Patera actually wrestled for the WILDMAN on a few cards.
Oh, wow.
And Stan Stasiak, of course, also as wrestled for quite a few years off and on for the WILDMAN here. Guys who were world champions on this card, or future or past world champions, of course, were Backlund, Graham, Dusty, Larry Zbyszko, and Stan Stasiak. So there's quite a legacy of big stars here. And I just wrote down something here also earlier that I've seen 8 of these guys live, which was kind of weird to me thinking about that point.
Yeah, with hindsight being 2020, right? Like looking back and saying, hey, like look at all the champions that were on this card, right? Look at the Hall of Famers on the card. Yeah. Billy Graham, WWE Hall of Famer. Dusty Rhodes, WWE Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? Like so many. Another thing we like to do is the fallouts. So what kind of happens after this show? Something pretty interesting with this Terry Justice book is right there.
Yep.
And it says Dusty Rhodes will get a second shot at the Worldwide Wrestling Federation champion superstar Billy Graham October 24th. That is promoter Vince McMahon's way of rewarding Rhodes for his spectacular, though non-title winning victory over Graham in the Garden on Monday night. Rhodes was declared the winner when Graham, who had been pummeled out of the ring after a wild exchange, failed to beat the count. So he lost by count out, if anybody's lost. The title only changes hands if the champion is pinned or submits. The next time the rivals will go at it in a Texas death match, meaning that it must end with a definite winner. Chief Peter Maivia scored. George the Animal Steel and Bob Backlund disposed of Pretty Boy Larry Sharp in the prelim highlights. Yeah, so scored over, folks. There's typos.
Yep.
That doesn't make any sense when you look at it.
Scores! He scores!
Hey, man, back in the day, you guys didn't have like Microsoft Word and stuff, right? Once it was done, it was done.
And back in the day, scored meant something else.
Yeah, cool. In the midget tag team match, Cowboy Lang and the Haiti Kid defeated Little John and Little Tokyo. In straight 2 falls, Tora Tanaka defeated Johnny Rivera in 10 minutes and 9 seconds. And the Baron, the Maltese Falcon, and Jack Evans battled to a 20-minute draw. Mr. Fuji defeated Lenny Hurst.
Yeah.
So there are your results. A cool little note is that on October 16th, 1977, Stan Stasiak and superstar Billy Graham were booked to be in Toronto. Here's the clipping here where my finger is.
Down, down, down. There you go. Yep.
Perfect. You see that there, Wes?
Yep.
So there's the picture there. Is that the show that you said that he didn't show up to and you went to see him?
I went to that show specifically to see Billy Graham because I wanted to see what all the excitement was about. Unfortunately, there was a note taped to all the doors at Maple Leaf Gardens saying that he would not appear because of a leg injury. I still went to the card because what am I going to do? Not go? Even though I only bought the ticket to see him. That was
Yeah.
it. It was still a great card. It was really great to see Nick Bockwinkel. That was fantastic. The rest of the card was really, really good. But yeah, Graham didn't appear because of leg injury, and they announced in Toronto that the winner of the substitute for Graham was Waldo von Erich, that the winner between Stasiak and Waldo von Erich would get a title shot on the next card, which did in turn take place. Stasiak beat Waldo von Erich.
Yeah, that actually, funny to say, sorry to cut you off.
Yep.
It did happen November 20th, 1977, if you can see that.
Okay, yep.
So it has the results there, and it says superstar Billy Graham pinned Stan Stasiak at 10 minutes and 24 seconds to retain the heavyweight championship. So
yep.
There you go. To back up your story, we have the evidence to.
So we got a couple of pictures here. This is from my personal collection. I didn't take these pictures; I just own them. So that's a picture of him when he was in the AWA, and unfortunately doesn't show much of the physicality in his muscles. So we do have this other picture, and you can see he's being tossed there by the crusher or across the ring, and he's bleeding, and looks pretty good to me. And
red equals green.
Yep. And then we have this picture, which is so cool because upon research of looking at the picture and the event in the background, we'll post this up. We'll post this up so you can look at it. It's Billy Graham in Toronto's Maple Leaf Gardens with the WWF Championship belt, and I'm pretty sure that this was versus on a card versus Edward Carpentier, which was the night before he lost the title in Madison Square Garden to Bob Backlund, which was
that is pretty sick.
Which is bizarre. Yeah, that's and you can see because there's an event happening here, track meet February something on there, and he lost the title in February. So that's really, really, really cool.
That is wild.
Yeah, it was sad that I didn't get to see him live. One of the guys I always wish I could have seen. Of course, he came back. He wrestled here other times. I could have bought tickets. I just never did. But he was certainly a superstar. Long career, trained in Calgary by Stu Hart. Around the same time, him and Angelo Oscar were there wrestling at the same time. So they were good buddies, training together. So a good legacy. Now, did he get trained by Stu Hart to be a phenom? Well, yeah, he wasn't much of a wrestler. He wasn't a wrestler's wrestler, but he was certainly worth the price of a main event ticket because of his skill in the ring at creating heat. Great guy, just fantastic, and a great bleeder too.
And another great episode ends. And my friends,
just about. I wanted to say quickly. Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't know you were done. Yeah, keep going.
No. I just wanted to say thank you to all the people who are liking, sharing, subscribing. Please subscribe if you can. We're going to be putting out hopefully shows once a week if we can, and we're going to be taking on topics and subjects both that our viewing audience can suggest and on our Facebook pages, which are the Tribute to the Wildman page, Ontario Wrestling Clippings of the Past, and the National Wrestling Clippings Alliance Facebook page also. We just this past week went over 2,000 members for all three groups, which blows me away. I mean, I started the Wildman group like 6 years ago, hoping for maybe 200 people, and that's 10 times that. And with your help, Jesse, we've grown this and grown this and grown this, and it's not going to stop. We're just going to keep getting bigger and bigger as much as we want.
That's right. Just like when you pop the blue pill, buddy, you get bigger and bigger. I want to also say, if you want to get in touch with us, I run the Twitter account, so at official NWCA1. It's pretty simple. You send us a DM on there, follow us on Twitter. You can ask your question through Twitter. I will write down everything that you send. We do this show for you.
Correct.
I want to thank Grand River Tea for sponsoring the podcast, and I want to throw out that we are looking for other sponsors for the show. If you want to sponsor the show, you can get in touch with us at Wes and Jess NWCA at hotmail.com. all lowercase. Wes and Jesse at NWCA at hotmail.com. Email your questions, your requests. We'll even do episodes on your favorite wrestlers. We'll dig up everything we can to show like we did today. Next week, we're going even further into the history books as we're going to January 12th, 1970. And we're going to talk about a Canadian from the West Coast, Gene Kiniski, against Johnny Valentine in Fort Worth, Texas.
That's going to be so exciting. Yep.
So it's going to be fun. I can't wait to talk about it. And again, if you like our stuff, subscribe, share, tell your friends. The National Wrestling Clipping Alliance Facebook page, the Ontario one that Wes brought up, the WILDMAN tribute page. We are everywhere. We love doing this. So yeah, until next time, I guess, Wes.
That's it.
Thank you very much, everybody. And remember, stay tuned for the credits because we're about to show you everything we shown in the episode. Until next week, I'm Jess.
I'm Wes.
And we're the National Wrestling Clipping Alliance. Peace.
See you next time.